Hello, and welcome to Confident HR Conversations, the podcast designed to help you navigate challenges of communicating in English as an HR professional with confidence and clarity. I'm Alena Konečná, and I'm glad you're here.
Today we're tackling a topic that resonates with many HR professionals, imposter syndrome, especially among women working in male-dominated industries. Dr. Mandy Zimmermann is a leadership strategist, executive coach, and facilitator with a PhD in process engineering and a background in global leadership across high-stakes industries. She helps leaders and teams move beyond transactional leadership to build trust, confidence, and real alignment. Having worked across 6 countries, Mandy brings a thought-provoking approach that blends leadership science, behavioral insights, and reflective practices. In this episode, we'll discuss why imposter syndrome happens, how it affects HR professionals, and what strategies can help overcome it, so you can show up with confidence and own your expertise. Welcome, Mandy, to Confident HR Conversations podcast. I'm so happy that you said yes to my invitation. And today we have a very important topic, I think. It's something that I believe that 95% of the world's population has faced a situation like that, and that's the imposter syndrome. But because our audience is mainly HR professionals, and I don't want to say majority, but a lot of them are female. So I'm curious, in your experience, and you just had a workshop regarding imposter syndrome, how does imposter syndrome show up in the workplace, especially for those female leaders, female professionals, in when they need to deal with upper management or, well, generally male leaders?
Absolutely. Very, very important question. And thank you so much, Alena, for inviting me. I'm very, very excited to be here as well. And you mentioned 95%. It's actually around 70, 80%, studies show worldwide in the population, and especially in professions that are a little bit higher, or that have that deal with and work with higher level management. So yeah, HR shows numbers between 60 and 80% of HR professionals have been experiencing that feeling of imposter. And it is a feeling. It has actually nothing to do with reality. It is a distorted reality that we perceive ourselves. It is a pattern of thoughts and beliefs that we have been creating throughout our careers and lives, which might have been serving us in the past at some point somehow, but it is surely not now. And as I said, it's internal. We are telling ourselves things like that we are not competent, not capable or intelligent, especially not as capable as others see us, even though there's a lot of external evidence. So we had achievements, we had successes in our lives, but we're dismissing these. We are not owning it. It has nothing to do with real skills or achievements. It is really about owning your success. We might say things like, "Oh, I have just been lucky. It was the right time for it." When we get compliments, we say they're just being nice. So there's a big gap. And distorted beliefs. Again, it has nothing to do with reality. But as I said, be calm. It is shown in a large amount of the population. So you're not alone out there. And how does it actually show up in HR professionals? They might tend to overwork a lot. They might tend to work long hours and over prepare for meetings, for tasks that they have to do, for presentations. Because of that feeling, not being capable, not being competent enough. So they think they have to put more effort in order to achieve something, in order to prove themselves. When it comes to boardroom meetings, strategy meetings, leadership meetings, they might not speak up. They might not bring their own ideas. And they might be brilliant ideas, but since there's this self-doubt, they might say, "Oh, I'm rather not speaking up. I'm rather not challenging any leadership decision, any leadership beliefs or strategies." and not giving that feedback that would be very helpful sometimes, because HR professionals are working much closer to employees, right, than higher leadership is often doing. And they know it much better. They know their people much better, and they might see situations where they should challenge, where they should give some feedback, and they might not because of that feeling, not bringing up their own ideas, not presenting themselves as experts. Because also, let's say it clear here, very often HR is seen as soft or not that critical. And it is actually seen as soft by higher positions because they look at numbers, they look at hard skills, and hard skills is always something that you can measure, and soft is something that you cannot measure. I actually don't really agree with the term soft skills, because it is just as a hard skill as any other skill. It's just not measurable. And every time when something is not measurable, it's ambiguous, it's maybe in unclear. This is when we fall into this, oh, I don't know, I might not be competent enough here, so I might just rather not say anything. So avoidance is showing up as avoidance, and also procrastination. So you might know yourself when you have to prepare for a big important meeting and you just really don't want to get there. You're procrastinating something because of the fear of failing, the fear of not belonging there. Imposter has a lot to do with not belonging. It shows more in people when they're in situations of being the minority. For example, women HR professionals that might be in a lower position than high leadership, which might be mainly men. So there's this minority feeling as well. This, yeah, I don't belong here, I better don't say anything. And again, I want to encourage every one of you to, be more courageous, be not ashamed of your feelings, because it is actually quite common. So you're not alone out there, and already the fact that it is so common shows you that it cannot be true, because everyone around you that you see, that you know and you admire, they might have pretty much the same feelings, and they might be so off to you. So as your feeling about yourself is very off for many other people. So that's and your nodding shows me that you have been experiencing similar things yourself. You pretty much know what I'm talking about.
Absolutely, absolutely, Mandy. And thank you so much for sharing so many different angles. So there's a lot to unpack. So just what I'm hearing is that on one hand, it may start to seem initially like a good idea, right? So it makes you kind of want to prepare more, want to work more. So the company might gain more in a sense, but at the same time, there is this danger of because it's a feeling, it's not something that you can overcome by doing more. It doesn't really help. It can frustrate us, right? We will never be enough if we don't tackle the root of the issue, which is a
Yeah,
feeling. It's based in the data.
it's a
So what
cycle.
is
Yeah,
exactly? So what happens then is the company's actually losing the insights of those people, as you said, those people who actually work with the employees. So the upper management, the leadership of the company can have this blind spot because people are not comfortable speaking up because they don't feel adequate. So just wanted to point out those different layers of, on the one hand, people can have skills and they may want to work on their skills, which is great. But then there's this mindset and this feeling that is stopping them from using those skills when they actually need to.
absolutely. And it is a cycle, as I said, right? You're not owning it. You're not owning your competence, your skill. So you're not owning the success you have, and then you dismiss it and you say things like, I was just lucky, and it's not really true. And then you're not growing because you're going back into the cycle and start from zero. Now you have the same situation again. You're not owning it. You have to work more. Your success is not, you don't own it. And it is a constant thing. So working more indeed doesn't really help you. There's other ways how you can manage it, but not by working more, indeed.
Right, right. So you need to actually see what you're working with, and that's not the skill itself, but the mindset. Um, Mandy, I'd like to take a little bit personal turn because you yourself worked with many leaders, with executives, I assume with many men as well. So I'm wondering, have you ever felt imposter syndrome in a situation, and how did you personally combat it?
Yeah, big time actually. As you said, I have been in a senior leadership position in a man's world, in engineering, in the engineering field, in a country in South America, so in Chile, where there's still a bigger gap between men and women than maybe in Europe or in some European countries. And having been in this minority, and I felt this feeling big time. But I think the first time it really came up to me was actually at university. I do remember a very particular, specific moment where I literally had let that thought of an imposter, which I found odd that I said this to myself, and I said it actually to someone else too, where saying, I'm getting all these high grades, and I think the professor just doesn't know that I'm not capable. So I really literally said that. And I felt it. I was convinced that all professors don't know that I'm not capable, that I'm not intelligent. So how I overcame this particular case is really saying it out loud, speaking with other people, and tracking the evidence, because every single professor cannot be wrong, right? It feels like, and we have confirmation bias with imposter syndrome. So we feel little, we feel small, and we find evidence. Every single negative evidence is an evidence for us that is true. And we dismiss all the good evidence, all the more real, more often situations. And by saying out loud and saying, okay, every single professor gives me those high grades, and so everyone doesn't see how incapable I am, that's a little bit ridiculous. And also it showed me, like, who am I to judge them? Because now I'm judging their judgment about me, or about students. So that was an eye-opening and an awakening. That doesn't mean that it never came back. It came like in every situation. And it's actually very common that the higher you get in your achievements, the higher you get in your responsibility, the more it shows up, the more often it shows up, the stronger it shows up. And then again, if you are in this minority position, it might show up as well. And you can just imagine, because you're entrepreneur yourself, when I changed from being an employee, when I changed from the corporate world to being an entrepreneur. Now I didn't only have to deal with all the feeling of I don't deserve my success. I didn't own all my skills. Now I had to sell them, and I had to sell what I didn't believe in. So you can just imagine what a disaster that was. And sometimes still is. I'm being very honest. It's never going completely away, but it's manageable. So how do you manage this in this situation? I needed to stop comparing myself. So what happened is I was comparing myself with all the other coaches out there that have been maybe coaches already for 20 years, or that have been coming from a totally different field, that have been coming from psychology. So their skill set was a totally different skill set from mine. So I cannot, their life career, their life path was a totally different from mine. So I cannot compare myself. And I needed to understand, what are my particular strengths in this? How am I contributing in my own way to my success? And realizing that all these relationship skills that I'm bringing, which came pretty handy in the technical field, but they also made me experiencing this. I didn't have that deep technical feeling and knowledge. I had more always the feeling for people. So I was actually not really in the right position for a big time, but using this and saying, these were all successes. This was everything that I achieved. And my strength is relationship. My strength is working with people. And this is why I'm absolutely right in this position now, even though I came through another path. And what also helped is, instead of thinking that I have to prove myself, I have to sell who I am, I have to sell all my knowledge, my skills, I see it as serving. I have something to offer that will help people. It will help professionals. It will help organizations, and I'm serving them. So that makes it feeling softer. It's not so strong anymore. It's It's about, okay, I'm giving something and you take it. If you want it, you take it. Not like I have to prove that I belong here. I have to prove that I'm good enough. Because when I go in these situations, I'm feeling small again. And that's probably something that will always be there. So learning different way to manage those feelings is something that I worked very hard on and I'm still working on, of course.
Wow, thank you so much for sharing your personal journey, Mandy. And so many things resonated with me, obviously. And one thing that you mentioned that I think is crucial is that this might never go away completely, right? Sometimes we feel that if only we learn this extra skill, if only we get this another certification, or if we get this particular client, after that we can say we're the experts and we're finally there. We're finished. But that's never true, is it?
We were never finished. We will always find something that we didn't learn yet, where we still have to have a new skill, where we still have to we will always find someone who's better than us in something. So I'm working, for example, with one of my current clients. He is a very, very successful person, very young, already having a lot of achievements in his own business, and comparing himself with people like Bill Gates, for example. I mean, yes, you find always someone who's better, and you find always someone you can admire and who has a totally different story than yours. So it will never stop that we long for more. But that's actually, it's okay because every time we want more, we are learning and we are growing. So it's not a bad thing. Actually, imposter, this feeling comes when we are in our stretch zone, when we are not in our comfort zone anymore, but we're stretching ourselves. And this is when we're feeling incomplete, when we're feeling scared, and just learning to label it in a different way would be something to manage it.
Right, right. So the invitation here is it's okay to feel that way because it means that there's a potential for us to grow, which is actually a good news,
There
right?
is. Absolutely. Absolutely. And we never stop.
Okay. And let me also summarize quickly what you mentioned, how you overcame your imposter syndrome in those moments early on. So you mentioned that you talk to people, you gather the data on your successes, on your skills. So there is one way to look at it, yeah, to instead of kind of not seeing them, being blind to those successes that we've already had, making sure that we acknowledge them and we're aware of them, that can support us. You also mentioned that this can help us understand the particular strength that we can offer. So instead of trying to show, oh, we really fit in, we can say, oh, well, this is what I'm bringing in here into this company, into this meeting, into this situation. And this is what I have. I have some successes, and this is
Yes.
what I offer. I think that's
Yeah.
a beautiful thought.
And it will
Um,
always be different from what someone else brings, right? So you will bring things that they maybe admire, that they maybe feel insecure about. Be aware
yeah,
of that too. You might not have exactly the skills of the person that you admire, but you have other skills that they don't have, and we tend to not see those.
yeah. That's another thing, right? The diversity in the different skills and different things that we have to offer. Brilliant. Now, I'm curious about some specific concrete tools that we can use to
Mhm.
overcome imposter syndrome. And I know that you'd like to share one with us.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I shared some already, right? Tracking the evidence. I think journaling is wonderful. Journaling is wonderful for many, many things, but it's good for when you need awareness because how we start with any change and any managing whatever we have to manage is awareness. So, what I did and what I'm doing from time to time is I use journaling for exactly this, for um, remembering and recalling successes and writing down how I contributed to the success, how I can own the success. It makes it easier to not immediately say, oh, I was just lucky or someone was helping me. No, I did contribute. And I might not have achieved everything 100% myself, but who does? And why would we? Because when we work in teams, when we are, for example, leaders, why would we have to do everything ourselves? But we're contributing with our skills and with our knowledge to it. So journaling about your successes is a big one, and it helps you to quieten this feeling when it's coming. It's also very, very helpful to notice it. So journaling helps you being more aware. And when it's coming, then instead of identifying yourself with it, instead of saying, oh yeah, I am incapable, label it differently. Label it as, here is this imposter thought. This thought tells me that I'm incapable. I feel that I'm incapable, but it is not true. So by putting a name on it, putting a label on it, it is easier to have a distance, because then we say, okay, it's part of me, it's a thought, but it's not me entirely. So this helps very, very much. Normalize it as well. As I said, 60 to 80% of all HR professionals have that somewhere in their lives and their careers, that they felt this. So when it comes, say, okay, this is just something I have to overcome. It is something that I need to learn to manage. It's nothing bad. It's nothing where I have to be ashamed of. And speaking about it with someone, speaking about it, especially with someone who is not non-judgmental, someone who shows integrity, who you can trust, can be very helpful. I was having this workshop just a few days ago, and everyone agreed in the end that it does make a big difference if you have a small group everyone is talking about the same, and no one was judging, and everyone had a different situation, but everyone had that same kind of feeling. So if you surround yourself with these people rather than with people who want to prove, I was living in Dubai. In Dubai, there's a lot of events where people need to show. They need to show how rich they are. They need to show how successful they are. If you surround yourself only in this kind of environment, it's difficult. It's really hard, because then you feel so small, because I'm not as rich as this person. I don't perceive myself as successful as that person. And maybe neither do they, but it is an environment which is not completely entirely true. So people with more integrity and more genuinity would be more helpful in your life. And then there's one exercise, and if you want, we can try it. It is identifying these distortions. I told you it's a distortion of reality, by catching your thoughts and rephrasing them in a different way. So if you want to try that, and you said already, yes, you nodded.
Absolutely. Let's.
Yeah, how about we do a little exercise? So if you can remember a situation, maybe a recent situation or a situation that was very dominant in your life, where you felt like, oh, I'm not adequate. They might find out that I'm not belonging here. Is there any situation that you might want to share and that you can describe briefly, as objective as you can?
Objective. Okay, I'm
Difficult.
yes, yes, it is. It's quite personal. So when I started to work with HR professionals, it was so I've been teaching English for over a decade, right? But then there was a time where I decided to find my own clients without cooperating with platforms or whatever. And so there was a time when I needed to start engaging with HR professionals directly on a discovery calls and explain to them why I think I could help them with their English speaking skills. So yeah, that was the situation.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and I feel already there was some uncomfortable feeling around it. So, what have been the thoughts in this moment, before the call or in the call? What were these, nagging things that you told yourself?
So obviously it was before those calls when I thought that they would have to be crazy to meet with me because I never worked in HR. So I could help them. So I was thinking that because I'm not an expert in HR, they would think that I'm not able to help them. I don't understand them. I don't have the expertise needed.
Okay, so there's quite some, if we take this thought, they think I'm not adequate. They think maybe even I'm crazy, because I never worked there. So that's the thought, right? That's making you feel, oh, small. If we really, really be scientists here and say, okay, let's see what is happening. One thing that you do with a thought like this is you're reading their minds. You say, okay, they think this about me, which is we do not know, right? So we don't know what anyone thinks. And some people might think something negative, some people might think something positive, some people might not think anything. Well, we don't know, but we pretend to be mind readers. So that's a very common distortion in people that have that feeling. Another one is, you said it was before the call, um, is like telling the future, right? Fortune telling. It's like, okay, if I go to this call, this and this will happen. They will think this and this. Maybe they will even say something. So you're predicting something that is impossible to know. So that is another distortion, how we are beating up ourselves and minimizing everything that you have been going through in the past. So you have been having this whole career before that. You have a lot of skills that you have to offer because they come to you and they work with you, even on platforms, because they don't have what you have. They don't have what you have to give. But by saying, I'm not adequate here because I never worked in HR, you're dismissing all of this. That's I can feel you. I can really feel you. And I know it's hard to see it that way, but that is what we're doing. And again, you're not the only one. And I know this feeling very, very much myself. And I think another one is emotional reasoning. So when we have all these feelings, we really in this moment, we're emotionally taken by it. We say, because I feel that way, it must be true. So just because we feel something, it must be true. And as I said before, it is a really, really big gap between others, how they see us and how we see ourselves. So that already tells you it cannot be entirely true. And what
Mm.
helps now, so if you take this thought again, and if you take the distortion, so you're reading minds, you're telling the future, you dismiss or minimize everything else around you aside from your DHR experience, and you say, because I feel this way, it must be true. The first step would be find the evidence. Find evidence where, because you felt something, it must be true. Find the evidence where you were able to tell the future. Find the evidence where you were able to read someone's minds. Where is the evidence?
Okay. Um, well, you never know, right? Um, well, sometimes people asked. That's true. But as you said, like some people didn't care because they have their own things to think about. I think that's very, very usual that we feel that people are busy thinking about us when in fact they are busy thinking about themselves.
Yeah.
So yeah, usually
So
not the
there's
case.
no evidence. You see,
Oh,
there's no
yeah,
evidence. So it might be true, it might not, but evidence is not there.
true.
Now, I'm 100% sure that you can find a lot of evidence against, where you can find where you think someone thinks something about you, but it turned out to not be true. Where
Absolutely.
you think it is in a certain way because you feel bad, but it turned out to not be true. So I guess there's a lot of evidence. So that would be the first part of the exercise. Identifying what are you thinking and trying to understand how you're distorting, how you're fortune telling, for example, and finding evidence against it and for it. And almost always it turns out there's no evidence for it, but there's a lot of evidence against it. And if you find evidence for it, try to think maybe you're still in this thought, you're still in this imposter feeling, and you're not rational in this moment. Now the second part of the exercise, so that is really now making it manageable for you, is what would be more accurate. So we know already it is not true what you're doing. Mind reading is not true. Fortune telling is not true. What would be more accurate? What would a thought be that that can be true?
I guess thinking back at that moment was I do have something to offer. I do feel that I can help them, and I'm willing to learn. So yeah, there's that. That's why I didn't stop with that thought.
Yeah,
And that,
absolutely. You have something. You might not have the experience of HR, and that's okay, but you have so much more that you bring what they're looking for. Plus, you're learning something. So not having a skill means I can learn it. So a more accurate thought would be, I'm not entirely knowledgeable of what they go through. However, I have a lot else to offer. Plus, I'm willing to learn. So now it's the same situation. It's the same like kind of thinking, but it is more accurate. How does this feel?
yeah, absolutely. You know what? I think if I didn't have support at that time, I would not really realize that this is what I have to do. Like not stopping with that first thought coming in and doing the mental work to say, but that's not actually true.
Yeah,
You have something to offer, and I just have to, go through with it. And then the opportunities come, and there's more opportunity for me to learn. Otherwise, I could just say, oh, well, I have nothing to offer, therefore I will not do anything.
yeah, and some people give up indeed. So that's the danger of feeling these imposter feelings. We tend to give up. We tend to avoid things, right? But the only way to manage, and again, maybe not entirely overcome, but manage, is to catch these lies because they're nothing else but lies. It's not the truth. Um, and there's always a different truth to it. And it might not be easy. It might at the beginning sound very difficult. It's like, okay, so now I still don't really believe it. It is practice. It's like every other skill in that you ever learned in your life, you practiced it. Like the thought pattern, the distortion that you're telling yourself, you practiced that your whole life. It is something you learned, and it is something you can unlearn, or you can at least soften, and you can learn something else instead of it. And it will, in situations of stress, it will come through. But now with practice, you know, okay, I know what to do. I know how to manage this. You find your ways. Some people might identify like a second person and saying, can we just please talk later? You know, if that helps. Or more rational, get, putting the evidence on the sheet and saying, no, I know what is true. I'm just telling something to myself, which is not. It becomes easier with time, and it becomes absolutely manageable.
Right. So it's all about practicing and exercise. And as you said, with time, it takes us a couple minutes maybe to make this distance, as you mentioned before, right? The distance between the thought itself and ourselves, and not to identify ourselves with that
Yes,
imposter syndrome
yes,
thought. And then we can look at it and maybe reframe it so that it's more aligned with the reality, and that can help us go through with whatever we're facing at the moment. Mm,
absolutely. This is
that
it.
makes a lot of sense. Oh, well, thank you so much for guiding me through this exercise,
Yeah, you're
Mandy.
very welcome.
Great to reflect back on my beginnings in entrepreneurship. Now, to end us with some final positive thought, I'm curious, what would you say to people who are currently facing imposter syndrome because maybe they just got a new job or stepped up in their career, and suddenly they're facing these new challenges they maybe thought that they will never have to face again, but suddenly it's back, yeah? Even though that they went through a lot already, they have a lot of experience, suddenly the imposter syndrome kicked back. And what would you say to them?
Absolutely. Well, I would, first of all, I would ask them to not be ashamed of anything and to normalize again that this is very common, and especially when you are on your edge, right? So you're having the next step, you're getting out of your comfort zone, and now you're at the edge and there's something insecure, uncertain. So it is very normal to feel that way. And I would, if someone goes away with something here, I want them to understand that they misinterpret growth. Really be aware that every time you feel that way, you are stretching yourself, you're growing, and you have to have that feeling. You have to feel scared. You have to feel uncomfortable in order to change something. So if you work with me, you will feel uncomfortable at times because we're changing something. So, and it works. So yeah, that would be what I want people to go away with, and to always keep in mind when they have this feeling, it is nothing wrong with them. It is nothing wrong with how they do things. They are growing big time, and they might want to be proud of that feeling, because if they didn't have it, they probably wouldn't grow. So yeah, that's probably the smartest thing that people can take away.
Thank you so much. And that's such a great thought that when we grow, when we learn, it's not always pleasant. Sometimes we have these false advertisements shouting at us, oh, this is easy. Just join this course and it's going to
Nothing
be
is easy.
okay. But the fact that it's a strain, that it's struggle, it shows us that our brains are actually working and growing and developing themselves. And that's good feeling, even though it's not comfortable feeling, or it can be good feeling, but even though it's not always comfortable.
Yeah,
Right. Well, thank you so
getting
much.
comfortable with the discomfort, maybe.
Yeah, getting there. It's like taking the cold plunges every morning. I'm not that kind of a person, but I admire those who are able to do that. But it's like a physical alternative or physical equivalent of this learning process that our brain has to go, and it's also
Yeah.
not always comfortable. Well, thank you so much, Mandy, for sharing these pieces of wisdom. And just a note, the exercise that you shared with us, that you guided me through, you're also sharing in a way through a mini guide or a worksheet that I will link
Yes.
to this episode as well. Thank you so much for sharing this with
Yes.
us. And I'm curious, how else can people reach out to you and what can you offer to them currently?
Yeah, thank you so much, first of all, Alana, to have me here. Yes, I do share this exercise in a little bit more detail to really reflect on it, and also to have a list of distortions, because we touched only a few of them. There are some more. And if people want to download this, they can automatically find my contact information there as well. They can sign up for my newsletter if they want. But also anytime reach out to me on per email, per WhatsApp, per LinkedIn, whatever link you might want to share in the comment section. And just give me a message or a call. Probably calls I'm not necessarily answering immediately, but I will answer for sure. And what can we do? So we will work on not only imposter syndrome, we will work on anything that has you stuck somehow, anything that you want to change, any soft skill, anything that is difficult to measure, knowing yourself better, becoming way more self-aware, to manage just any situation that you encounter in your career. That will be something that we can work on in coaching. If you're an organization, of course, we also can talk about some training and facilitation, coaching in a group, coaching one-on-one, really getting to know yourself better, getting your limited beliefs and thoughts and distortions to know better, because they're not only in imposter syndrome, we have them in several other places too. And understanding and learning how to see them differently and how to manage them. I intentionally don't want to say overcome everything. We overcome some things, but they're part of us, and it's okay. It's okay that they're there, and you will learn that it's okay.
Thank you so much, Mandy, for everything.
Thank you
And
as well.
see you next time, hopefully.
See you next time. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to Confident HR Conversations. I hope you enjoyed it. Don't hesitate to reach out to me with any questions, feedback, or suggestions.
If you are an HR professional who wants a safe space to practice speaking in English, join our Confident HR Speaker community. We meet twice a month to discuss real HR topics, expand our vocabulary, and gain the confidence to express ourselves. Plus, you'll be supported and inspired by a group of other HR professionals who share your struggles and goals. Check the link in the description to sign up. Bye-bye.